Good evening, friends. Let me start by saying something that might sound a little backwards at first. Sometimes, when you stop caring so much about being perfect, about always being right, about how things should unfold, everything begins to fall into place. I'm not talking about apathy. I'm not talking about giving up. I'm talking about releasing, letting go of that white knuckle grip we have on life, the one we convince ourselves is necessary to keep it all from unraveling. Letting go isn't weakness, it's not failure, it's trust. Trust that you don't have to micromanage your destiny. Trust that who you are, beneath the hustle, the proving, the pretending, is already enough. We often confuse letting go with giving up. Like if we stop trying so hard, we're somehow weak or lazy or irresponsible. But letting go isn't about surrendering to failure. It's about surrendering to trust. It's not the act of saying, I don't care anymore. It's the quiet and sacred act of saying, I trust that what's meant for me won't require me to lose myself to have it. Letting go is actually one of the most courageous things we can do because it means we're willing to release control in a world that constantly tells us control is everything. It means choosing peace over perfection. It means softening the armor we've built around our hearts. It means saying I'm no longer available for relationships, careers, or expectations that ask me to contort who I am just to keep the peace. We're taught to hustle, to push, to make it happen, and that works for a while, but eventually you realize the tighter you cling, the more you lose. You lose your center, you lose your voice, you lose the ability to hear yourself think, because all you're doing is trying to keep the plates spinning. And if you're honest, maybe it's not even your plates you're spinning. Maybe it's everyone else's expectations from your family, your culture, your social media feed. Letting go is the choice to stop performing. It's the choice to stop believing that worthiness is something you earn by being tired, overbooked, or endlessly accommodating. It's deciding that you no longer need to suffer to be seen, because when you let go, you're not giving up on the dream. You're giving up on the struggle. You're giving up on the idea that it has to be hard to be real. You're giving up on the need to prove you're enough because you finally remember that you always were. Letting go isn't about passivity. It's about power. It's about looking life in the eye and saying, I trust the timing. I trust my intuition. I trust that if I stop forcing things to happen, the right things will flow. And flowing doesn't mean floating aimlessly. It means aligning with what matters, moving with intention, and knowing that what doesn't feel right, what costs you your peace, is too expensive. Letting go is an act of deep trust. Trust in yourself. Trust in something greater than you. Trust that even when things don't look like they're working out, they might actually be working on you. So no, letting go isn't giving up. It's you stepping into a life where you don't have to grip everything so tightly. It's you remembering that some of the most beautiful things in life arrive not when you fight for them, but when you finally create enough space for them to arrive. We like to tell ourselves we're in control. We build routines, make spreadsheets, map out 5-year plans, and color code our calendars. We say things like, I just like to be organized, or I need to know what's next. But often, beneath that polished surface is fear. The obsession with control doesn't come from confidence. It comes from anxiety. It comes from the deep, unspoken belief that if we don't hold it all together, everything might fall apart. And more than anything, we're afraid of what that might say about us. Control is a safety net for the scared parts of us, the part of us that has been let down before, the part that was blamed for things that were our fault, the part that learned early on that uncertainty meant danger, instability, or disappointment. So we micromanage conversations, we overthink texts, we replay scenarios and pre-plan responses. We try to get ahead of rejection by rehearsing how we'll handle it, as if heartbreak can be solved like a math equation. But here's the raw truth. No amount of control can guarantee the outcome you're hoping for. Because people aren't predictable, life isn't linear, and healing doesn't happen on a schedule. The more we try to manage every moment, the more disconnected we become from this moment. The obsession with control robs us of presence. It pulls us out of joy. It traps us in cycles of hypervigilance where we can't even exhale without wondering if something bad will happen the second we relax. The control, as seductive as it is an illusion. You can do everything right and people will still leave. You can prepare for every possible scenario and life will still surprise you. You can try to be perfect and someone will still misunderstand you. And that's not a failure, that's being human. So what do we do instead? We practice surrender, not as passivity, but as presence. We shift from control to connection. We replace micromanagement with mindfulness. We learn to trust ourselves more deeply, to trust that we can handle discomfort, to trust that our value isn't tied to how tightly we grip the steering wheel, to trust that if something isn't for us, no amount of control will make it stay. And if something is for us, we don't have to force it. Letting go of control doesn't mean you stop caring. It means you stop letting fear drive the car. And that shift from fear to trust is where peace begins. Have you ever noticed that the harder you chase something, the more you cling, grasp, strive, the further away it seems to get? It's one of those quiet truths of life that no one really teaches us, but we all bump into eventually. What we chase out of lack, desperation, or fear often runs from us. It's not because we're unworthy. It's not because we don't want it enough. It's because chasing carries a certain kind of energy, one that says, I don't believe I can have this unless I fight for it, unless I prove myself, unless I earn it by force. We chase people who don't value us. We chase success because we're afraid of being average. We chase validation because we haven't learned how to sit with our own voice and believe it's enough. But the energy of chasing is the energy of scarcity. It comes from the belief that something is missing, and that thing is somewhere outside of us. So we run, we chase relationships because we don't want to be alone with our thoughts. We chase titles because we think they'll finally make us feel whole. We chase attention, applause, achievements because we think if the world claps enough, we might finally believe we're okay. But here's the twist. The more we chase, the more we become disconnected from ourselves. Because when you're constantly chasing, you're never receiving. You're in pursuit mode, survival mode, and it's exhausting. The irony is that the very things we chase are often drawn to the opposite energy: stillness, wholeness, confidence, self-respect. Love finds you when you stop begging to be chosen. Opportunities open when you stop trying to manipulate the outcome. Clarity arises when you stop trying to think your way out of uncertainty. It's like trying to catch a butterfly with a net. But the moment you sit still, quiet, soft, the butterfly might just land on your shoulder. And this doesn't mean you don't take action. It doesn't mean you stop caring or stop dreaming. It just means your movement becomes aligned, not frantic. Your pursuit becomes one of expression, not validation. You go after things not because you think they'll complete you, but because they're a reflection of who you already are. And that shift, that's everything. So if something keeps running, maybe pause, ask yourself, am I chasing this because I truly want it or because I'm afraid of who I'll be without it? Because maybe the answer isn't in the chase. Maybe the answer is in the stillness, in the deep knowing that you're not behind, you're not missing out, you're not too late. Maybe, just maybe, the moment you stop running after what you think you need, the thing that's truly meant for you will finally find its way in. Would you like to keep going with the next one? Your worth isn't measured by how much you struggle. Somewhere along the way, many of us were taught, subtly or directly, that struggle equals worth. That if you're exhausted, you're doing it right. That if you're constantly sacrificing, constantly grinding, constantly putting yourself last, then you're valuable, then you're strong, then you're lovable, then you're enough. We wear struggle like a badge of honor. We compare war stories. Who's busier? Who's more tired? Who's juggling the most? And underneath that noise is this deeply ingrained belief: if I'm not struggling, I must not be doing enough. But let me ask you this: when did suffering become a prerequisite for self-worth? We've confused pain with purpose. We've mistaken burnout for bravery. We've glorified self-neglect and called it resilience. But here's the truth most of us were never told. You do not have to earn your worth through hardship. You don't have to carry the heaviest load to be respected. You don't have to abandon your needs to be considered kind. You don't have to prove how much you can endure to be seen as strong. You were worthy before the striving. You were enough before the overfunctioning. You were lovable before the exhaustion. Your worth is not measured by how much you can carry. It's reflected in your ability to honor yourself while you carry it. It's in your capacity to say, I matter too. Somewhere we learn to equate struggle with goodness, especially if you're the caretaker, the overachiever, the peacemaker. We learned that rest is selfish, that asking for help is weak, that saying no means you're letting someone down. At the cost, your body, your joy, your sense of self. You begin to lose the parts of you that were never meant to be sacrificed in the first place. So let's unlearn this together. Let's rewrite the narrative. Struggle may shape you, sure. It may grow you, but it doesn't define you. Your value doesn't rise and fall with how much you can endure. Your humanity doesn't require suffering to be validated. You don't have to keep proving your heart is big by breaking it over and over again. You don't need to perform pain to deserve love. Sometimes the bravest thing you can do is step back, to rest, to heal, to breathe, to let yourself feel peace without guilt. Because you right now, even with less on your plate, even if you pause, even if you don't struggle, you are still enough. And that truth can change everything. We talk a lot about hustle. We celebrate grind. We idolize the people who seem to be everywhere, doing everything, never slowing down. But what if the most powerful thing you could do is surrender? I know That word makes some of us flinch. We think surrender means failure. We think it means giving up, losing control, waving the white flag. But that's not surrender. Surrender is not weakness, it's wisdom. It's not about passivity, it's about presence. It's saying, I don't need to force something that's not flowing. I trust life enough to stop wrestling with what isn't mine to carry. You see, as long as you're in control mode, gripping every detail, every outcome, every step, there's no space for alignment. There's no room for grace. There's no quiet in your spirit for clarity to rise. When we're busy trying to make everything happen our way, on our timeline, through our effort, we block the very things we're praying for. Love, peace, purpose, healing. Alignment isn't created through force, it's felt through flow. And flow begins when we let go of the version of life we thought we had to have, and we start showing up with open hands. Think about it. Have you ever tried to control a relationship so tightly that it suffocated? Have you ever planned something down to the last detail only to have life flip the script and somehow what came instead was even better? That's alignment. That's what happens when we stop pushing and start listening, when we stop trying to perform for the universe and start trusting that it actually wants to support us. Surrender doesn't mean you stop showing up. It means you stop overcompensating. It means you stop clenching every decision like your entire identity depends on it. It means you pause, you breathe, you tune in. You ask, does this feel right for me? Not just in my head, but in my heart, in my body, in my soul. Because alignment doesn't shout, it whispers. You can't hear whispers when you're running at full speed trying to prove your worth through doing. When you surrender, you stop pushing what's not meant for you, and you start noticing the doors that open without a struggle. You start recognizing the relationships that don't require you to shrink. You begin walking with purpose, not panic. You move in rhythm with your truth. Surrender creates space, and in that space, the right people, the right path, the right timing all begin to click into place, not because you forced it, but because you allowed it. And that's alignment. Not the picture perfect kind with ocean waves on a screensaver. Not the kind people post about on social media with filtered sunsets and quotes about good vibes only. No, real peace. The kind of peace that lives deep in your chest, that whispers you're safe even when the world is loud. The kind that doesn't need to prove itself. The kind that feels like coming home to yourself finally and without apology. But here's what we often misunderstand. We think peace is passive. We think it's a retreat, a gentle backup, a soft surrender. But real peace is bold. It takes courage to choose peace in a world that thrives on urgency, outrage, and noise. It takes strength to stay grounded when everything around you is begging for a reaction. It takes intention to pause, not because you're disengaged, but because you refuse to be pulled out of alignment. Peace isn't sitting on the sidelines of your life. It's knowing what's yours to carry and what's not. It's knowing when to speak and when to stay silent, when to engage and when to walk away. Peace says, I don't have to win this argument to feel secure. I don't need your approval to trust myself. I'm allowed to protect my energy even if it disappoints people. Peace is power with boundaries. It's quiet confidence. It's no longer needing to prove your point just to be right, because being right isn't your priority anymore. Being well is. And let's be clear, peace isn't about bypassing the hard thing. It's not pretending everything is fine when your heart is breaking. It's not about floating above life, detached from pain or injustice or discomfort. True peace is grounded. It can hold grief and gratitude in the same breath. It can sit in uncertainty without spiraling. It can say, this is hard and I'm still okay. That's power. The kind that doesn't shout or strive or scramble for attention. The kind that doesn't flinch at chaos because it knows exactly who it is, even when the room doesn't. Peace isn't the absence of problems. It's the presence of clarity. The decision to stop fighting battles that aren't yours. The willingness to walk away from anything that asks you to betray yourself. So if you're craving peace, not just calm, not just silence, but that deep inner steadiness, you're not seeking something weak, you're seeking something wildly powerful, because peace doesn't come when everything is perfect. It comes when you decide that you no longer need to be at war with yourself, when you stop chasing, clinging, controlling, and constantly proving. When you stop measuring your worth by how much you struggle and start remembering that stillness doesn't mean you've lost, it means you've come home, everything begins to fall into place. Not because you pushed harder, but because you finally stopped pushing at all. Not because you gave up, but because you surrendered to trust, to timing, to something greater than fear. And in that surrender, you found space. And in that space, you found peace. And in that peace, you remembered who you are. You remember that your value isn't earned through burnout. That control is not your safety net. That alignment feels nothing like exhaustion. It feels like truth. And maybe, just maybe, letting go wasn't the end. Maybe it was the beginning. The moment when you stopped gripping and started receiving. The moment when the striving ended and the becoming began. So no, this isn't about not caring at all. It's about caring differently, more softly, more honestly, more bravely. It's about letting life meet you where you are, not where you're pretending to be. Because when you stop caring in all the ways that drain you, you start caring in all the ways that free you. And that's when everything truly begins to fall into place.